Guys, I think that Black Ops 6 might actually be cooked. There's been a ton of insane Call of Duty news that's been getting shared as of lately. Two of the biggest pieces of information just got shared within the last 24 hours regarding AI being used in Call of Duty games, as well as an interview with an ex-Call of Duty developer who basically created skill-based matchmaking. Now, even though most of the stuff we're going to be going over today is more on the negative side, there is some potential positive news that I want to start the video off with as well. So if you guys do enjoy this video and want to see some more Call of Duty news, more updates and stuff like this, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. Let's start off with something a little bit more positive. In Black Ops 6, we obviously have Grind Ooze, which is a remake of Grind from Black Ops 2, and apparently you can do a wall jump off of this one specific ramp here. Now, I haven't really tested this, but as you can see, we basically have the whole like wall jump, wall skipping feature, which is currently rumored to be a new movement mechanic in next year's Call of Duty game, which could basically be Black Ops 7, or basically like a follow-up to this year's game. Now, after briefly revisiting Fortnite, I can confirm that the game also has this kind of movement tech. So I guess that Treyarch is kind of just teasing this movement feature here at this one particular moment in the map. It kind of seems like a neat feature, but at the same time, if you really pay attention to the character, the movement is kind of janky, and if we have this in a Call of Duty game, it's gonna make the gameplay even more unpredictable compared to a game like Black Ops 3 where the movement system is a lot more smooth and fluid. I'm actually kind of wondering if every ramp that has these little up arrows is a wall that you can test this out on. I'll definitely have to try that out later. But speaking of basically leaking upcoming game features and stuff like that, we also got a ton of information about Verdansk's return to Warzone coming from Charlie Intel here. Okay, well, in fairness, he's getting this information from the Ghost of Hope, but it says that it's set to return with the launch of Season 3. The map is similar to the original Verdansk. Stadium will be accessible on the inside, but the roof will be closed off, and the train system is going to return. He's saying nostalgia with Verdansk won't save all the problems with Warzone. I mean, amen, dude. You can't just plop an OG map into the game and expect it to completely fix things. I mean, honestly, Grind is a prime example. Yes, it's a really cool map from Black Ops 2, but if there's other problems with the game, one map is not going to fix anything. And from what we've heard, Activision is hoping Verdansk can save Warzone's player decline.
Oh my god.
What did I just say? Nothing we've heard so far, though, suggests there'll be anything significant, hoping we're wrong. We've also heard that some creators playtested Verdansk a few weeks back and gave feedback on the map. It's not clear what all was played and what feedback will be taken into account. The latest rumors still remain that the map is expected to launch with Season 3. I gotta be honest, man, that's gotta be a brutal playtest, because obviously Verdansk has some nostalgia and stuff and people want to see the map come back, but if the actual gameplay of the game is not in a good state, then what is the map even gonna do?
Nothing.
Activision has now released a 3,000 COD point Mastercraft bundle in Black Ops 6 and Warzone. The game still remains full of hackers with no real working anti-cheat though. Maybe if we keep buying the $30 bundles and keep making them billions of dollars, we could eventually get a working anti-cheat. We are so... Okay, so Charlie's saying that some content creators playtested builds of Verdansk for Warzone with different map elements, including different map traversal elements a few weeks back. The map was similar to the original, with stadium accessible, but the roof was closed. There's actually been 2 playtests for Verdansk with different builds, sources say. One test late last year and one a few weeks back, all focused on feedback for Verdansk. Now, even though I am being pretty pessimistic about this so far, it is pretty good that they're at least getting some people in there to play test and give some feedback on the map that is good. And this is just my dumb opinion, but I don't think that Verdansk can save Warzone. But I'm gonna save my opinions for later because there's still a lot more tweets to go over. We've been hearing for weeks that Activision is trying to go all out content-wise in trying to make Verdansk return to Warzone the best they can after the last few months of how bad the game's state is. It's one of the reasons why Season 2 of Warzone had absolutely nothing, which probably explains why Seasons 1 and 2 have been pretty okay as far as goes for content for multiplayer and zombies. However, Warzone has basically been getting crumbs. They haven't really gotten much of anything. And I do anticipate that Season 3 is probably going to be chock full of content specifically for Warzone, but I am kind of worried that multiplayer and zombies could end up taking a bigger backseat for Season 3, which would not be good, because I've already been saying that Season 2 is pretty mid for Black Ops 6, and we really do need some better content coming into the game. But this is where things get pretty juicy, because Charlie Intel is saying that the Grau and HDR weapons are potentially returning to Call of Duty Warzone with Verdansk, per the sources. Data miners have also found references to the original Rose Operator skin potentially returning as well. There's also a possibility that the Kilo and AMAX will also return to Warzone with Verdansk. There are potential other fan favorite weapons returning too, but we can't confirm those for now. So yeah, some of the classic weapons from Modern Warfare 2019 as well as the OG era of Warzone could be making their way back into the game. However, we don't know exactly how this is going to impact Black Ops 6 multiplayer or zombies. We don't know if these weapons will be coming to those parts of the game as well, or if this is somehow going to be a Warzone exclusive thing. Honestly, it would be kind of crazy to have Warzone exclusive weapons that cannot be brought into Black Ops 6's multiplayer and zombies. Because honestly, this stuff is going to be a little out of place in the game. Granted, the game itself has also kind of gone in a lot of different directions at this point, and I don't think anyone really cares. I mean, dude, we're going to be getting the D13 sector from Black Ops 3 in the game later this Thursday, so I really don't think anyone's going to care too much, but this is going to continue to alter Black Ops 6's identity, and the game is going to be all over the place. Oh man, I completely forgot about this tweet as well. Charlie Intel said, "So this is insane. Black Ops 6 gives gives players the ability to wishlist a blueprint for a weapon you see in the kill cam that's available in the store that you do not own. This screenshot is from Nero Cinema, and as you can see in this kill cam, this dude was killed by a blueprint for the GPR-91, and you have the option to wishlist the blueprint if you want to. Now later in this video, we're going to be covering that skill-based matchmaking interview, but this could really lead to some nasty stuff in terms of engagement optimized matchmaking. I mean, who's to say that the game is not going to intentionally matchmake you up against people who have blueprints and bundles that you don't own, so that way when they kill you with this gun and then you go to check the kill cam, you could just go ahead and wishlist it right there if you actually care about the gun, which I would argue that most people don't. If you keep dying to the same person over and over again who's using some kind of blueprint with annoying tracer rounds that is just like frustrating you and you off, you're more likely to rage quit the game than wants to watch a kill cam and then be like, oh, I want to buy that bundle. Absolutely ridiculous nonsense feature that does not need to be in the game, and it's just crazy, man. Charlie's saying this was initially a feature in Modern Warfare 2019 as copy loadout. Now it's wishlist a bundle.
Oh my god.
Diarrhea. But yeah, that's all the information we have about Verdansk returning to Warzone so far. I'm pretty sure a lot of us knew that Season 3 was going to be reintroducing Verdansk. We've had all kinds of teasers and Easter eggs up until this point. Now, as far as goes for the weapons, those are just leaks and rumors, and it's not 100% confirmed quite yet. It could potentially make this experience more interesting because having some of those classic weapons back on the map could make things a little bit more interesting. But overall, and I've been saying this for quite a while, I really just think that Warzone needs to die. Something else needs to take its place, and I really do think that the experience would be better if it was just separate from the mainline Call of Duty games. It would be better for Battle Royale. It would be better for Warzone if it was just a separate experience and if it was not tied to the mainline Call of Duty games. And trying to bring back the original Verdansk map, kind of like how Fortnite did the whole Fortnite OG stuff, I really don't think that it's going to do it. I don't think that's going to somehow save Warzone. However, as you guys know, I've grinded for Dark Matter and Nebula camo in Black Ops 6, and I've purposely been waiting until Verdansk gets added into the game to start grinding for Abyss camo. So if you guys want to see that, I'll be streaming myself grinding Abyss camo only in Verdansk once the map gets dropped. It should be incredibly painful, but hopefully it makes for some good content. But you know what's not good for content? Generative AI. Activision has now confirmed some in-game content in Call of Duty is AI generated, and it says, quote, "Our team uses generative AI tools to help develop some in-game assets," Activision says, as part of a required disclosure on Steam. Now, I've already been talking about the usage of generative AI in Black Ops 6 for quite some time, and I specifically said in a previous video that it's really odd that Steam requires you to have a disclosure if you've used AI to create anything in your game. Well, if you pull up Black Ops 6 on Steam right now, and if you go to the main page, it says AI-generated content disclosure. The developers describe how their game uses AI-generated content like this, and it just says, "Our team uses generative AI tools to help develop some in-game assets," which I've got a lot of different feelings about this. Let's talk about the positive. The first positive is that they are being transparent, and they're just straight up saying that they do use AI tools to develop in-game assets. However, that's basically where the good news starts and stops with this information, because unfortunately, they decided to be as vague as they possibly could in saying what they use AI to generate. The problem when you put out a statement like this is that people's imaginations can run wild, and we don't even know specifically what they've used generative AI for. Did they use it for calling cards? Did they use it for emblems? Has it been used for skins? Has it been used for the matchmaking system? Has it been used to create maps? As players and consumers, we have no clue. And even though they have this AI generated content disclosure on Steam now, we still don't know exactly what's going on. So even though we have some transparency here, this doesn't really give us any clear-cut answers, and we don't know exactly what the generative AI is being used for. But this is where things get kind of weird, because Charlie Intel also followed this up by saying Steam recently started requiring disclosures of AI, which resulted in Activision having to confirm their usage of it. But what's really strange about this is that this is not a recent thing. Steam actually put out this article in January of 2024. And we don't have to read this entire article, but basically all you need to know is that in early 2024, they were already having discussions about having some kind of AI disclosure if your game uses generative AI. And they said, first, we are updating the content survey that developers fill out when submitting to Steam. The survey now includes a new AI disclosure section where you'll need to describe how you are using AI in the development and execution of your game. And it separates AI usage in games into two broad categories, which is pre-generated content as well as live-generated content. And that's really why this information is so insane. For months, players didn't necessarily know that the game was using generative AI content. You couldn't necessarily claim or prove that because there wasn't a disclosure anywhere. Well, we now have that AI generative content disclosure, and as you can see by the reviews for Black Ops 6 on Steam, a lot of the recent reviews are mostly negative, and overall, the reviews are now mixed. I mean, just look at some of the top and recent some reviews. Since Activision can't be bothered hiring real people anymore, I've decided to take advantage of AI myself and ask ChatGPT to write this negative review for me. Enjoy. Now, I mean, granted, they still have to hire someone. There still has to be a person who is using and manipulating generative AI. And I've talked about this before, but I'll mention it again. Basically, what happens is real artists were making all of the content before, but I'm pretty sure in an effort to cut costs, Activision decided, hey, we don't want to be using real art anymore. We want artists who use AI to generate this stuff and then just touch it up because we can save money that way. This is one of the most recent negative reviews that just came out today. We use AI in some assets of our game. Some? So every new operator skin, almost every voice, all calling cards, emblems, and even prestige icons, some art on the maps, even weapon skins, yeah, that's just some. This is exactly what I was saying earlier. They're trying to be transparent by having the disclosure, but then they don't really tell you what it's being used for. So people's imaginations get to run wild, all the conspiracy theories get to come out, and we don't really have any actual true transparency. This review says, really, Activision using AI? There's what, 5 studios now all making COD, and yet somehow there's not enough people to make all your required assets by hand? Apparently not. We gotta get some AI robot hands in there. Get the left arm from Black Ops 3. Now look, man, I know that some people absolutely love and adore AI for whatever reason. I mean, I guess it can do your homework for you. It can send emails for you if you don't really want to type something up. I do understand that there's that side of things. That's not the hill that I'm trying to die on. That's not the argument that I'm trying to have here. I think that using generative AI to create a AAA video game that can generate billions of dollars every single year, it's just kind of a joke. Call of Duty is one of the most popular, highest earning, most played video games and most recognizable brands of all time. There's no shot that they can't afford to have real artists and real people just creating the content organically for the game. Because I don't know about you guys, but if they keep using generative AI in such a way, I really do think we're going to see more negative reviews and more people leaving the franchise as a whole, because this is just not it. I feel like I could rant and talk about generative AI in Call of Duty all day, but we have to move on to the skill-based matchmaking interview as well. But I did want to talk about and cover this because we have official confirmation that they are using generative AI in Black Ops 6. We just don't know exactly what for. But guys, to wrap up this video, we have a big, juicy interview coming from Insider Gaming. It says, interview, I sat down with a developer behind Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking. Let's check it out. Finding ways to get around skill-based matchmaking was always a part of my gaming routine, and when I had the opportunity to speak with Charlie Olson, a veteran software programmer who spent nearly a decade at Raven Software in 2 stints and wrote the matchmaking rating algorithm for Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking system, it was an offer I couldn't refuse. Olson initially wrote the MMR algorithm for China's Call of Duty Online in 2015. That's crazy, man. With the algorithm making its way into its first mainline entry with 2016's Infinite Warfare. It's a system that has been there ever since, with the matchmaker itself becoming more sophisticated over the years, but Olson's rating algorithm remaining essentially unchanged. Olson would move on from Raven Software in 2020, going on to co-found Invocation Games in 2022, a development studio that provides custom skill rating and ranking systems to games. But first, I wanted to address the elephants in the room when it came to Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking white paper and its legitimacy, because as we all know, there's always a sense of doubt when a giant company tries to be transparent. Literally the entire generative AI section of this video. But anyway, when asked, Olson told me that the white paper is accurate and he can attest to it based on his own analysis at Call of Duty and on other games. Live service games need skill-based matchmaking and skill-based matchmaking needs MMR, he said. He continued to explain that both are needed to ensure long-term sustainability and player engagement, which are both crucial components in ensuring a successful live service game. But that doesn't mean everyone should just shut up and like skill-based matchmaking, said Olson. On stats, Olson explains that around half of players would be driven to stop playing without skill-based matchmaking, because the sometimes you stomp, sometimes you get stomped narrative only applies to around 40% of players by skill, with 10% of the very top players doing 90% of the pub stomping. Olson used XDefiant as an example of churn-based matchmaking and explains that although XDefiant had team balancing, quote, people don't like being the weak link repeatedly, and high-skill players don't like carrying a team of potatoes all the time. When asked for a solution to skill-based matchmaking, Olson believes that it is needed to ensure long-term sustainability for a live service game. However, thinks that its solution is transparency of where players rank with their skill. The massive problem with skill-based matchmaking, though, is that you don't know what league you're in anymore. Skill-based matchmaking takes away the sense of skill and mastery. There's less skill feedback, stats don't matter as much, KD is less of a bragging right. It's a serious design problem, really. If you are trying to get better at the game, skill-based matchmaking just rewards you with tougher opponents. I'd even say that skill-based matchmaking punishes players for being good. That's unfair, and players are right to complain about it. My man! Olsen thinks one solution is to reward players with more XP for being better at the game. Casual doesn't need to be completely about skill like ranked, but you should be able to see something about the average skill of your lobby or opponents. Like maybe this match is a gold tier, so you get a 1.2 XP multiplier. You should be able to see your MMR in the combat record. You shouldn't have to file a personal data request with Activision just to get that information. He went on to explain that he did pitch such a system for Call of Duty on multiple occasions, even at a meeting at Infinity Ward during 2019's Modern Warfare development. However, Olsen noted that the lack of bandwidth that studios have to consider new ideas outside of the lead studio makes such pitches an uphill battle, especially coming from a non-designer. So I tried, but it didn't catch on, he said. The other reason I think it didn't catch on is that most designers just don't know much about how MMR works and therefore aren't comfortable using it as a component for design. I asked Olsen to explain skill-based matchmaking in a For Dummies explanation, to which he explained that skill-based matchmaking consists of 3 different systems: matchmaking, team balancing, and MMR, which is matchmaking rating or skill rating. MMR is the number that the matchmaker and the team balancer uses. The MMR system takes into consideration the ratings of everyone in the match and updates your rating based on your relative performance. In Call of Duty, Olsen said that the MMR is more volatile in the mid-range, which is an issue that could be addressed. He said that COD players who requested their data from Activision are likely seeing that volatility too, with their MMR bouncing around without a clear indicator as to why. But that's why Olsen believes that players should openly be able to see their skill rating for transparency and so they can see what's going on. He noted that preventing people from seeing their skill rating or making you data requested from Activision leads to a lack of faith and ultimately leads to conspiracy theories that we often see flooding the internet. Contrary to what some players believe, you really don't have to try your hardest every match. If you go off meta, your skill rating will adapt after a few bad games and your matches will get easier. The exception would be when you're playing low populated modes that attract high skilled players or during open betas, he said. For example, you probably shouldn't expect a game mode like Domination, a game mode that traditionally attracts higher skilled players, to get much easier. Speaking of conspiracy theories, Olsen also pointed out that COD's skill-based matchmaking gets mistaken for engagement optimized matchmaking, but it's really just because the MMR is highly responsive and volatile. What's clear is that skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty and other live service games is likely never going to go away. They are fundamental systems to keep a game alive and thriving by keeping players around, and has become even more apparent recently following Activision's clampdown on VPNs and patching skill-based matchmaking get-around methods like two-boxing, a method where a player would join the session of a lower-skilled dummy account to enter a lower-skilled lobby. The issue with Call of Duty in particular seems to be transparency, and players should be rewarded for being good at the game. Whether that's XP bonuses, as Olsen suggested, or even going one step further and offering exclusive calling cards, emblems, and so on. Now, that was basically the entire interview. I will have the article linked in the description if you guys want to take a closer look at it, but that was basically everything. I do want to try to read between the lines, though, and hopefully come to a better conclusion of what's going on here with skill-based matchmaking, because, yes, this is the guy that made the skill-based matchmaking system, all this different stuff. He made the matchmaker for Call of Duty. But at the same time, it's not necessarily always about data, and there's a lot of stuff that's being excluded from this conversation. Olsen did admit that in the mid-range of skill, that there's a lot of volatility when it comes to your skill rating, which basically means that it's probably ping-ponging all over the place. Maybe for a short period of time, your skill rating is actually really high, but then out of nowhere, it starts to get really low and it just kind of goes back and forth, and ultimately, on average, you're somewhere in the middle. And the reason why stuff like that happens, especially coming from the perspective of someone who's been playing Call of Duty since COD 4, is because when you're in a match, if it's just not fun, or if you're not able to get your camos, or it's just an unbalanced, unfair lobby, you're gonna end up rage quitting. And we now have data to prove that when you rage quit matches behind the scenes, the game is tanking your hidden skill rating, which is going to allow you to get into easier lobbies the more that you rage quit. So with that in mind, if you keep rage quitting your matches, your skill rating is gonna get lower and lower until you eventually get a lobby where you have a fighting chance, where you have a chance to, hit your feeds, get your camos, do whatever you're trying to do. But when you overperform in those lobbies, your skill rating is going to match that. It's gonna start to shoot back up, and then all of a sudden, you're starting to play in those really crazy sweaty lobbies again. And look, man, I know that Olsen is trying to suggest rewards for getting better at the game, like giving you bonus XP if you're in a high skill lobby, or trying to give you calling cards or emblems and stuff like that, but ultimately I don't feel like that is the solution. And honestly, it's kind of a weird suggestion. I can't really see them ever giving players bonus XP for just being better at the game or having a higher skill rating, because they're also talking about long-term sustainability for a live service game. If you're progressing through the game too fast and getting your stuff unlocked too fast, that's not good for the long-term sustainability of the game. And I really don't think that that giving players AI generated calling cards or emblems is going to make them that much happier about being the biggest dork on the game. And this part of the interview is honestly just really strange to me. He's saying on stats, Olsen explains that around half of players would be driven to stop playing without skill-based matchmaking. I really want to know how they came to that conclusion, because a lot of the older Call of Duty games prior to when this algorithm was put into the game, specifically the golden era of Call of Duty from like COD 4 to Black Ops 2, it didn't have a system quite like this. Yes, it did have some type of skill-based matchmaking system, but it wasn't as insane as it is now. They didn't track nearly as much data. It clearly wasn't as strict, but people kept playing the game, and the games actually got more popular as the years went on. So what changed? Well, from interviews like this, we can confirm that the skill-based matchmaking has 100% changed quite substantially, and it's gotten more strict. It's gotten smarter. And even though he's trying to say that games like XDefiant using churn-based matchmaking, which I've never heard that term before in my life, regardless of XDefiant shutting down, which has nothing to do with churn-based matchmaking, it has everything to do with the mismanagement at Ubisoft, I would absolutely argue that players prefer to have no skill-based matchmaking in casual playlists in games like XDefiant and the older Call of Duty games the way things used to be. They're saying that people don't like being the weak link repeatedly, and high-skill players don't like carrying a team of potatoes all the time. Well, here's the thing. If you don't like being the weak link, you need to be playing against better players, which is exactly why having no skill-based matchmaking is better. You get a wider range of skill in the lobby, and people who aren't as good can watch kill cams. They can try to learn from those other players and get better, versus skill-based matchmaking protecting them and only matching them against other bad players, where they're never going to learn how to get better at the game. And this whole thing of high-skill players don't like carrying around a team of potatoes, yes, we do. When you're really good at the game and you can get a ton of kills, you don't want your teammates taking your kills. You basically want to hog everything. So yeah, this is honestly just a really strange quote. It's a weird statement. And on top of that as well, there is absolutely nothing in this interview that talks about the actual matchmaking times themselves, as well as the connection quality. One of the worst things about Black Ops 6's multiplayer at the current moment with regards to matchmaking is that it can sometimes take forever to actually find a game, and then once you do, it might be a terrible match. It could either be a super sweaty lobby, or the connection could be terrible with lots of packet bursts and stuff like that, or it could be a combination of both. And then ultimately you have to keep rage quitting, and you're gonna spend more time matchmaking in the game than actually playing games. Whereas in a game like Marvel Rivals, which yes, it's a hero shooter, in the casual matches, there's no skill-based matchmaking. You can find a match and start connecting to a lobby in a matter of seconds, which is how things used to be in the older Call of Duty games, but because of this insane skill-based matchmaking that we have now, that's not the case. And I don't know why this is so funny to me, but it's just really ironic that they're talking about getting skill-based matchmaking mistaken for engagement optimized matchmaking when they literally just added the wishlist a bundle feature to kill cams in Black Ops 6. But anyway, that's gonna do it for all the latest news on Call of Duty. Definitely let me know in the comments what you guys think about the wall running on Grind, Verdansk returning to Warzone, generative AI being used in Call of Duty, as well as this skill-based matchmaking interview. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, and you want to see some more Call of Duty stuff like this, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later.
Outcome. Train good.